Hello, and welcome to this week's video. So, as promised, I'm going to review Dune Parts 1 and 2, but we're going to do it a little differently. The format that I've been following lately has not really been working out for me. So, starting now, I'm going to be giving you a numeric review of the movie that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about what interested me, what stuck out to me, what I liked, and that sort of stuff. I think it's going to make it easier for me to streamline, and then for you guys to get an idea of whether or not our movie interests align, or maybe you just like hearing me talk and play video games. Either way, yeah, that's going to be the new format. So today I'm playing Death Stranding while reviewing both Dune Parts 1 and 2. So first off, Dune Part 2, I'm going to give a 9. And giving it a 9 for the reason of just because I know that there are things that were changed from the book, but in the way that they were changed, I think they were changed in a way that made sense for what Denis was trying to do, and also for the sake of like a modern audience. There's a lot of things that Frank Herbert wrote and did that didn't necessarily resonate with audience so many years after he wrote his books. So I give Part 2 a 9. Part 1 I give a 7 or an 8. Alright, how am I going to get across? Let's see. Big old ravine. And I gotta go that way. So this looks like I might be able to go that way. What I loved about Dune Part 2 was that it was a continuation of the story. I mean, it picks up immediately after, and that's what Denis wanted to do. That both movies told the single narrative that Frank Herbert told. And in a way, again, that was updated for modern audiences. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't do it right. Oh, no. Here they come. Here they come. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's no bueno. Run! Wow, I thought this was going to be a lot more chill than this. I'm already running into people that want to grab my cargo. Annoying as hell. Boop. There's a way I can boost, isn't there? How do I boost? Oh, wait. Manual. Manual. Control. Boost is L3. Okay, let's back up. Oh, I did it. Let's go. I didn't think I'd be able to make that. Run. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Make it! Oh. That didn't work. Okay, I have no idea where I am. Come on, dude. Oh, are you serious? Maybe this wasn't the game to choose. Oh my gosh. This is so stressful. Ah. A junk man. There we go. Lost my bike. I'm gonna start over. Dune Part 2 is a 9 for me. Mercy. One of the reasons that I love Dune Part 2 is because it maintained the political identity that Part 1 established for itself. And Dune, at the end of the day, is ultimately a film about politics. Politics is how people relate to each other for influence, for power, for self-sustainment. And I think Denis Villeneuve does an excellent job at doing this. Primarily what I want to talk about in terms of Dune Part 2 is the threads that it takes from Part 1. To do that, I'm going to assume that you've already seen Part 1 and that we are looking at this as a giant narrative, a giant collective, because I believe that's the way it should be watched. I know Denis said that you can watch Part 2 without having seen Part 1. And you know what? I saw Part 2 a second time. And I think that's true, but you definitely do appreciate Part 2 a lot more if you've seen part 1. So, quick recap of part 1. We're going to be focusing on it in terms of point of view. Point of view is huge in this film because it's all Paul. You only really get 1 or 2 sequences where the point of view shifts from anything or anyone beyond Paul. Ah! Hey, look. It's Arrakis, guys. Whee! I am Paul Muad'Dib Atreides, Duke of Arrakis. I guess Arrakis used to have cars. So, we're going to talk about how in part 1, Paul's our protagonist. Mostly everything revolves around him, right? So here's what really Dune Part 1 establishes: that Paul has an ambitious mother who wants to be the mother of the Kwisatz Haderach. She believes her son is Kwisatz Haderach. He has a wise, powerful, and benevolent father who wants to establish his son as a benevolent and effective ruler. He has military friends who are strong, fierce, and loyal in Gurney, Duncan, and Thufir. And then he has more than one birthright as Duke of Arrakis, and then also as potentially the Kwisatz Haderach. He's the son of a Bene Gesserit witch. And so right in the beginning of the movie, we see he's established as a Bene Gesserit with Jessica, and then we see he's established as the Duke's son at the ceremony for the change. And then he's established as a capable fighter. Tree of its south, not city ruins. And so where part 1 ends, like, we see them go to Arrakis. The judge of the change is not fair in allowing the Duke Leto to question really the poor state of affairs that the Harkonnens left Arrakis in. And then the Harkonnens attack and obliterate the Atreides. And so now we have all of these threads, and I'm going to list them out for you right here. Ooh. Boop. We see the beginning of the Holy War in Paul's visions, and that those visions only become more intense as he continues to pursue really that ultimate end. Jessica begins to establish the way for Kwisatz Haderach. When they go to Arrakis, Paul sees that the Fremen look at him and think he might be Lisan al-Gaib, and Jessica takes that and runs with it in part 2. Paul's mind shows him possible futures, so the Holy War, but then also shows him his meeting of Chani. He also runs into Jamis, and Jamis actually ends up being a big factor in his initial journey and beginning as Kwisatz Haderach. Oh man. Okay, well right now I'm okay. Aha, here we go. So I have written down also that Chani is Paul's gateway into his ascendancy to Lisan al-Gaib, even though in part 2 she's very much against it. Oh, crap. They're everywhere, dude. Ooh. And we also see one of the threads being carried is Leto says to Paul, "Here on Caladan, we have cultivated sea and air power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power." Okay, where's my weapons? I can use that, or I can be a goon and absolutely just wreck you. Oh man, here we go. They're not happy, they're not happy, they're not happy. Oh man. There's one right there. You see him? Give me this. I gotta go back here. And then Jamis says we must move with the flow of life, and we must move with the flow. Life is something to be experienced, not fought, not, you know. And then Gaius also speaks of other prospects. In part 1, when she's rebuking Jessica, she says, you really thought that you could produce the Kwisatz Haderach. We have other prospects. Paul is not the only one that we're looking at, after she tests him. And so we're introduced to Fade Routha in part 2. What I should do... Big brain moves over here. I'm going to do a big brain move. Hear me out, hear me out. We're going to take this bad boy, offload it. Then we're going to take these and this and put it onto the carrier. Aha. Then I'm going to go get the rest and bring them back. Oh yeah. Big brain moves. What else do we see? Also, ooh, the sacred nature of water. In part 1, you may remember Stilgar comes to meet Leto after... Oh my gosh. Shh, shh, shh. Shh, shh, shh. Okay, we're good, we're good, we're good. And so when Stilgar comes to meet Leto, he spits on the table, and Duncan says, thank you, Stilgar, for the gift of your body's moisture. We accept it in the spirit in which it was given. We humbly receive it in the spirit it was given. And then finally, the last thing that I have down here in my notes, I'm definitely missing something. But the last thing I have here in my notes is that when the Mother Gaius, Reverend Mother Gaius, came to visit Paul, she said, do you often dream things exactly as they happen? And he said, not exactly. And so that continues into part 2. What is that? I don't know how much you guys are hearing because I really turned it down so you could hear me. Let me bring it back a little bit for you. There's like a ping or something. I don't know. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, they're everywhere. Okay. Oh my gosh, dude. There's no way I get out of here without a fight. Let's see if this will do anything. Okay, it just gets him to move out of the way a little bit. That's all I need. Need you guys to move. I'm just in the way. Oh my gosh, what it... It's right there. Oh my gosh, dude. Just go away. That way. Shoo. Shoo. Not towards me. Oh my gosh, dude. Dude, please. Away, away, away from me. So this is Dune Part 2. Let's get on to that. So really here what I'm going to be focusing on is the themes and arcs in Part 2. Again, I just gave the kind of overview, the rundown of how Part 1 establishes things, and then Part 2 carries them through to completion. Not full completion, but enough to where you're like, okay, these things like carried over in a really significant way. No, I don't want to throw down. I want to get out of here safely. Okay, so let's start from here with water being sacred to the Fremen. So Jamis at the end of Part 1 is killed, remember? And so they're carrying his body and they run into the Harkonnens at the beginning of Part 2. And then they beat all the Harkonnens, of course, because they're Fremen. And what they do afterwards is that they take these machines and they begin converting the Harkonnens into water. It's kind of creepy, to be honest. I found it creepy. I'm sure other people were like, dude, this is pretty sick. It is pretty sick, but it's also kind of terrifying. Like, they just take you and turn you into water. So, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to see. Okay, let's get out of here. And then when they're at Siege Tabr, or Tabre, or however they say it, when they're at the siege, the Fremen take Stilgar's body and convert him into water and add it to the sacred pool. And Jessica cries. She's like, so many souls, millions of souls that are in this pool of water. Let's go, dude. And so she starts to cry, and Stilgar says, never give your water away, not even for the dead. And he like puts his thumb to her tear and then drinks her tear, because water is so rare, water is so sacred, that even you crying is kind of like sacrilege. And the prophecy speaks of Lisan al-Gaib making Arrakis into a paradise of water. And, you know, from Part 1, there's different scenes that I can think of and instances where we go to a small siege before Duncan is killed, right? And we see the Fremen spitting into this converter that offers them water to drink, or coffee or something. I don't know what they're making. But they spit into it. They use their own moisture to create moisture for them to drink and utilize in other ways. And then near the end of Part 2, Paul has a vision that involves his sister Alia, played by the lovely Anya Taylor-Joy, love of my life. And he sees an ocean in place of the dunes of Arrakis. Okay, so that's water. And then my next theme is prophecy and inevitability. This is the one that I'm probably going to be spending the most time on, just because it's literally what the entire movie revolves around. His inevitability of becoming their Lisan al-Gaib. So to start, I have down that Chani tells Paul, you want to control people. Tell them a Messiah will come and you will control them for centuries. This is one of the things that I know was different from the book, and one of the things that I think is actually probably the most positive change for the story. Because but then there's this conflict pitted between the North and the South in terms of how they think. The South believes in a Messiah, in the Lisan al-Gaib, and Stilgar is the forward representation of this movement. He is from the south and believes in Paul as the Lisan al-Gaib. And then versus the north, Chani is a northerner, and Chani is set up as one who does not believe in the prophecy. They believe in the Fremen freeing themselves, that Arrakis has to be taken by one of its own. Oh, come on, dude. And the big differences between Chani and Stilgar in terms of how they communicate is that Stilgar, and it's been memed, says as written. Anything that Paul does, as written, as written. It was foretold that Paul would be this way, that the Lisan al-Gaib would be this. How come I'm not seeing it, dude? There you are. There's one up there. And the Northerners, they, primarily represented by Chani as well, they fear what would happen if that prophecy was followed to the letter, to the T. Because, seriously, like, you're going to be following a centuries-old prophecy brought on by witches. Designed to control the Fremen. Oh my god, dude. We're good. And so as we're going along with Paul on his journey into becoming a Fremen, he listens to both Stilgar and Chani because they're both teaching him how to be a Fremen, and his goal is to, save the people. There we go. But just the fact that he's listening to both is very indicative and telling of his struggle to straddle both his political agenda and his personal agenda. The next bit in this theme of prophecy and inevitability is that Jessica tells Paul, after she takes the water of life and becomes a Reverend Mother, she says, only one step remains to you becoming the Kwisatz Haderach. You have to drink the water of life. Paul doesn't want to. He fights against this for the majority of the film. Let's go. And so, like I said, Paul has learned to be Fremen with the help of Chani and Stilgar. He learns how to sandwalk and survive the desert. He learns how to ride a sandworm. And then he learns how to use the Fremen tools to fight the Harkonnens. And Jessica and Stilgar see all of these things that he's learning how to do as fulfillments to the prophecy of Lisan al-Gaib, of the Kwisatz Haderach. And then we find out that Gurney Halleck is alive. Spoiler. Gurney Halleck is alive, and he says to Paul, your path leads to war. Can't you see it? You're afraid because you lose control. And Paul's like, no, I'm afraid because I gain it. So now two options present themselves. Now you can go south and run from Feyd-Rautha because he's pushing the Fedaykin and the Fremen south. And so really Paul has no choice but to go south. But beforehand, Gurney shows him where the family atomics are. The Fremen and Atreides' destinies and inheritance really start to intertwine here. And so he shows Paul the warheads, and he says that is power. Power and control over the spice fields, the ability to destroy them. That's power. And when Paul is forced south because of Feyd, Chani tells him, the world has made choices for us, and you have to go with that flow. There's no other choice that Paul has that he can make. So Paul actually has no choice but to go south and to drink the water of life, because how else is he going to ensure the safety of the Fedaykin, and how else is he going to find his way to freeing Arrakis? And so when he drinks it, then there's one last bit of prophecy that we see, is that Chani's tears bring him back to life, because the water of life brings death. And her real name, not her Fremen name Chani, her real name means desert spring. And so there is a prophecy that desert spring tears will bring the Lisan al-Gaib back to life after drinking the water of life. And it works. It does. Right there. Oh, crap, dude. Run, 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 run. Oh my gosh. I almost got into a whole encounter there. So the next theme I want to cover is the water of life. The water of life brings death and is a trial that the Reverend Mother and the Lisan al-Gaib both have to go through. And so where I found that it continues from part 1 is that Paul has his vision of Jamis, that Jamis is going to essentially be one of the many gateways into his ascendancy as Lisan al-Gaib. The voices in his head that are prompting him to become Lisan al-Gaib tell him Paul Atreides has to die for Kwisatz Haderach to rise. When you take a life, you take your own. And so he kills Jamis, understanding that his life is now a ransom for Jamis's life. And so that's why he becomes a part of the Fremen. And then this one, really special and really important. He says, "Father, I found my way." And it's, again, very indicative of the struggle that Paul has in pursuing his political and personal agendas. He doesn't want to be Lisan al-Gaib, and yet the prophecy and him being pushed to become Lisan al-Gaib is actually how he finds his way to ruling, being the leader that his father wanted him to be. In every respect, Paul has expectations on him on all sides. Jessica and Stilgar push for his ascendancy to be Lisan al-Gaib. Chani tries to anchor him and pull him away from those Bene Gesserit prophecies. And then Gurney comes in and pushes for his political ascendancy as Duke of Arrakis. There's just a lot of pressure, but it's inevitable. The world has made choices for us. He has to go south. He's forced. And it's just like tragic. It's just sad. So the next theme that I saw that just kind of stuck out to me was when Paul goes and kills Vladimir, and he tells him, "You die like an animal," which really continues the theme that the Reverend Mother Gaius started in part 1, where she says, "Like sifting sand through a screen, we sift through people." And we also see that in the fact that Fade is tested by the Lady Margot Fenring to make sure that he's not just an animal, even though that's very much what he acts like. Next, we have it was cool to see Gurney got to kill Raban, and he says, "For my Duke and for my friends." That was really cool. So I guess not necessarily a theme, but a thread that came over. This is cool. So Paul uses the voice against the Reverend Mother Gaius. He says, "Silence!" And I know that's been circulating around the internet a lot because everybody's like, "Oh, that's sick. Like, what?" And she's like, "Abomination." She's all, upset about it. Everyone loves this scene because it's so cool and powerful. But there is significance to this because Paul has flipped the tables in terms of his relationship with Gaius. He is no longer slave to the whims and wishes of the Bene Gesserit. He is now forging his own destiny, where before that wouldn't have been possible. Oh, man. Oh, man. Run. One more. No! Oh my god. Dude. Okay, I'm back. That pissed me off. Jeez. Alright, so what was I talking about? Oh, Paul uses the voice against the Reverend Mother. Gaius says, silence. And Gaius remarks, abomination. That's a remark of fear. Gaius is scared of Paul and what Paul has become. And it's because he's not doing what she designed him to do, or even what she was believing he would be. So you got to think of it like this, right? For 10,000 years, the Bene Gesserit have been carefully crossing bloodlines to bring forth the Kwisatz Haderach, a mind powerful enough to bridge space and time. And Paul has come forward being one that his mind can bear the weight of space and time. Jessica said that from part 1. And so you got to imagine that Gaius was taught in the Bene Gesserit way, right? And so has been operating in that Bene Gesserit way. Paul is going against everything that she believed, she was raised to believe. In this teaching is something that made Gaius believe that the Bene Gesserit would be able to control the Kwisatz Haderach. And Paul is an outright spit in the face to that belief. That's why that moment of silence is so powerful. So there you have it. That is kind of what I wanted to focus on, and what really stood out to me. Go watch it. The plot is great. It's crazy. It's wild. Watch it. See these things from part 1 to part 2. See them for yourself. It carries over all these threads from the first one in such an awesome and powerful way that you just have to see it. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the future. There's a lot of exciting movies coming out this year, but especially in this new age of like post-COVID, where a lot of movies haven't really lived up to the kind of potential that they were pre-COVID, I think. I'm sure you're looking for old movies to rewatch and old movies to watch, because there's so many out there. We have Paramount Plus, we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have whatever else is out there, Peacock. We have all these services to watch old movies, so I'm gonna be going there, in addition to the new ones that I do go and see and care enough about to create a review for. So all that to say, again, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned. I'm trying to figure this whole YouTube thing out. Come figure it out with me. All right, signing off. I'll see you later.